Nobody tells you this at the beginning. Nobody sits you down before you start and says, you are going to fall. Not once, not twice, more times than you will want to count. You are going to fall publicly and privately, loudly and silently, in ways that embarrass you and in ways that nobody ever sees. You are going to fall when you were certain it was finally working. You are going to fall right after the moment it felt like you had figured it out. And the falling is not the detour. The falling is the road. That is the thing nobody tells you. That failure is not the interruption of the process. It is the process. That every person who has ever built anything worth keeping built it on a foundation of repeated, expensive, humbling, sometimes devastating failure. Not despite the falls, because of them, cycle by cycle, fall by fall, get up by get up, fall, get up, repeat. That is not a consolation prize for people who cannot win. That is the only method that has ever produced anything real. And if you have been treating your falls as evidence that you are doing something wrong, you have been misreading the data your entire life. Let me show you what the falls are actually for. Here is the most damaging story ever told about success. That it is linear. That it moves in one direction, forward, upward, progressively. And that any deviation from that line is a sign of inadequacy rather than a feature of the journey. You have been fed this story your entire life, through every highlight reel you have ever consumed, through every success story that started at the struggle and jumped directly to the triumph, skipping the 10,000 unglamorous repetitions of fall and get up that actually built the outcome. Through every image of someone at the top that showed you the summit without showing you how many times they fell on the climb. And because you have been fed that story, you have been measuring yourself against a version of success that does not exist. You have been watching your own falls and concluding that something is wrong with you, that other people do not fall like this, that the number of times you have been knocked down is evidence of a fundamental deficiency rather than proof of repeated engagement with something difficult. It is not evidence of deficiency. It is evidence of attempt. And attempt, repeated, stubborn, undefeated attempt, is the only currency that purchases anything worth having. The people you admire fell, constantly. The ones who built the businesses you respect, the bodies you are inspired by, the relationships you aspire to, the inner strength you want, they fell in every domain, at every stage, more times than their public story will ever show. The difference between them and the people who never built anything is not the number of times they fell. It is the number of times they got back up. Every single time. They got back up. The fall is not an accident in the process. It is the mechanism of the process. And until you understand what it is actually doing to you while you are on the ground, you will keep treating it as wasted time instead of the most concentrated education available. The fall shows you the exact location of your weakness, not the approximate location, not a general area. The precise point where your preparation ended and the reality of the challenge began. That information, specific, undeniable, earned through direct contact with failure, is more valuable than any advice, any strategy, any course or mentor or book could provide. Because it is yours, drawn from your specific attempt at your specific goal in your specific conditions. Nobody else's map fits your territory. The fall draws the map that does. The fall also shows you what you are made of, not what you think you are made of, what you actually are. Because character is not revealed in the winning. Character is revealed in the moment after the losing, in what you do when the plan has collapsed, and the result was not what you worked for, and every reasonable argument points toward walking away. That moment, that specific, terrible, clarifying moment, is the truest mirror available. What you see in it is the raw material you have to work with, and the only way to improve what you see is to keep falling and keep getting up until the person in the mirror is someone who does not recognize defeat as permanent. And the fall builds the one thing that cannot be built any other way: the deep, bone-level confidence that comes from knowing you have been knocked down before and you are still here, still moving, still building. That confidence cannot be borrowed. It cannot be learned. It can only be earned, fall by fall, get up by get up, through the accumulated proof that you survive contact with failure and come back for more. Think about how a child learns to walk. Not the sanitized, fast-forwarded version. The real version. The one that happens on kitchen floors and in hallways, observed by parents who are learning as much as the child is. A child learning to walk falls, on average, 17 times an hour. 17. Every hour of every practice session. Falling, hitting the ground, sitting with it for a moment, and then doing the one thing that has no logical justification whatsoever, given the recent evidence. Getting back up, the child does not assess the fall and conclude that walking is not for them, does not compare their fall count to some other child's, and decide the gap is too great, does not wait until the fear of falling has passed before attempting again. The child falls, gets up, and tries again immediately, not because it is comfortable, but because the destination matters more than the difficulty of getting there. Now tell me at what age you decided that falling meant stopping. At what point the child's instinct, get up, try again, no discussion, became replaced by the adult's calculation of whether the attempt was worth the risk of another fall. Because that shift, wherever it happened, is the exact moment your growth began to slow. And reversing it, recovering the child's relationship with failure, is one of the most powerful things an adult can do. Fall. Get up. No discussion. No extended analysis. No waiting until it feels safe. Again, right now. Every time. Let us talk about the get up, because it is the hinge. The fall is involuntary, it happens to you. The repeat is downstream, it follows from what comes before. But the get up is the choice. The only choice in the entire cycle that is entirely, non-negotiably, irrevocably yours. And it is the hardest one. Not because it requires the most physical effort, because it requires you to act against the full weight of the conclusion that the fall is trying to impose. The fall arrives with a verdict. This is not working. You are not enough. The attempt was a mistake. The sensible thing is to stop. And the get up says, I reject that verdict. Not with evidence. There is no evidence yet. With decision. Pure, unsubstantiated, defiant decision. That is what makes the get up the most important act in the cycle. Not the fall. The fall is just physics. Not the repeat. The repeat is just momentum. The get up is character. The get up is identity. The get up is the moment you decide, for the 100th or the 1000th time, that the fall was a chapter and not a conclusion. And it does not have to be fast. The get up does not require you to bounce back immediately with enthusiasm and a new plan. It requires only that you get up, however slowly, however reluctantly, however much the ground still feels safer than standing. Get up, imperfectly, painfully, without fully believing yet, that the next attempt will go differently. Get up anyway, because the only version of this story that ends well is the one where you are standing at the end of every fall. Not comfortable, not certain, standing. The repeat is where most people draw the line. Getting up once, that is admirable. Getting up twice, that is resilient. Getting up for the 5th time, the 10th, the 20th, after the same dream has cost you the same kind of pain in a slightly different form each time, that is where the crowd thins. That is where the people who eventually win separate from the people who eventually stop. The repeat is not stubbornness. Do not confuse them. Stubbornness is doing the exact same thing and expecting a different result. The repeat is returning to the pursuit with everything the fall taught you. With the map the fall drew. With the weakness the fall exposed, now addressed, and the gap the fall revealed, now narrowed. The repeat is not the same attempt. It is an upgraded attempt, carrying intelligence that only failure could have provided. This is why repeated failure is not the enemy of success. It is the engine of it. Every repeat arrives better equipped than the last. Every get-up carries more information than the one before. The person on their 20th attempt is not the same person who made the first one. They are categorically, fundamentally, structurally different, more resilient, more precise, more dangerous to every obstacle that stands between them and what they are building. The repeat is not a sign that it is not working. The repeat is the work. The falls are not interruptions in your progress. They are your progress. Measured not in outcomes, but in the willingness to go again. And again. And again. Until the day the going again produces the outcome that all the falling was preparing you for. You have fallen. You are going to fall again. Stop treating that as a problem to be solved and start treating it as a process to be respected. Stop looking for the path that has no falls in it. That path does not lead anywhere worth going. The smooth, risk-free, failure-proof route is a route to a destination you do not actually want. Everything you genuinely want is on the other side of repeated falls. Everything, without exception. So fall. Fall hard. Fall forward. Fall in the direction of what you want, so that even when you are on the ground, you are closer to it than you were before you tried. Let the fall teach you what only the fall can teach. Let it expose what comfort was concealing. Let it draw the map that comfort was too smooth to show you. Then get up. Not when you are ready. Not when the fear has passed. Not when the verdict of the fall no longer feels like the truth. Get up now, with the pain still fresh and the doubt still loud and the outcome still uncertain. Get up because the ground is not your destination, and staying there is the only actual failure available to you. Then repeat, with everything you learned, with every weakness now a target, with every gap now a project, with the deep accumulating confidence of someone who has been here before and knows, not hopes, knows, that they will be standing when it matters. Fall, get up, repeat, not until it stops hurting, until it is done.
After all the falls,